Hello and welcome. We are Clinical Research Fast Track, and we have a webinar today. It's going to be starting in about 4 minutes. Thank you. For those of you who are joining early, you are right on time. In clinical research, if you're on time, you are late. If you are early, like you all are, you are right on time. And I imagine you will be fantastic clinical research professionals. I am here with Lauren. We have two of them. We have Lauren Belina Chang and Lauren Stockwell. Okay, Lauren Stockwell, raise your hand, say hello.
Hello, nice to see everybody this evening, or see your names at least.
Lauren Belina Chang, please raise your hand, say hello.
Hello, good evening for my fellow East Coasters, but I guess even the West Coast, y'all are getting into the evening over there.
And we already have somebody raising their hand. I
Ooh, I love
love
that.
it. I love that you're raising your hand. But we're going to take questions in the chat. So if you're raising your hand, if you can find the Q&A or the chat button, please enter your questions there. We're going to start at the top of the hour. We want to give everyone a chance to join. I'm so happy that you're here early. It's going to be a lot of fun because this is our opportunity to really ask these questions, to learn about entering the industry, to figure out what works, what doesn't. And we have two people here who are probably two of the people who have helped more clinical research professionals enter the field in the last few years than anyone else maybe in the world.
Whoa.
That is, I don't know if we have a data to measure it against, but most there are some school programs, like master's programs, that will have 20 or 30 people in their clinical research program for the year. And when we're putting 100 or more people in the field each year, that's impressive. So we definitely have some people that can help.
I'm just going to say it. I think we need a crown and sash for putting the most people inside of the field of research. It's time.
A crown and sash. Is that a clinical research term?
Not necessarily, because we haven't started our webinar yet. So I'm making jokes still. We're not in clinical research. We have a few moments to have fun.
Okay, and we do want to have fun. Right before we get started, I'm going to launch a quick poll for all of you. We have this poll function, and I'm going to start with where do you live? See if you can fill out the questionnaire where you live. No one's tracking you. Don't worry. This is just for fun. We're just curious if you're on the east side of the country, the west side, the north, the south. Some people are international. So exciting. The poll is going to end pretty quickly. So put your answers in. And this is just a quick feeler. It looks like of those of you responding, about 40% are on the East Coast. All right, Lauren Belina Chang, raise your hand so they know which Lauren.
Yes, it is our time to get ready for sleep, right? Are we listening into that time? No, we're gonna have a good discussion tonight. I'm excited.
We also have a good number in the Midwest. Let's hear for those of you in the Midwest. And then we do have some 20% in the West Coast. I am in the West Coast also. Lauren, you're not on the coast though, Lauren Stockwell.
Not on the coast, but I'm currently on Pacific time. So I'm identifying as the coast.
And there's currently one international individual who is logging on. How much fun. I love these polls. That was just a fun way to get started. And it is top of the hour. So we are going to get started. Are you ready, Lauren?
Trick question. We're both ready.
All right. Here we go. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited that you're taking time out of your afternoon, evening to spend time with us. My name is David Silberman. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Clinical Research Fastrack, and we're so excited to present this webinar, which is so near and dear to our heart. The topic is how to enter the clinical research industry, and this is something that we work on every day. We help people get into the field of clinical research and advance and excel. And that is our sweet spot. And I'm here today with two very special guests. They are colleagues and they're friends. We really enjoy working together, even though we're in completely separate parts of the country. So first, I would like to introduce Lauren Stockwell. Lauren Stockwell is our Director of Outreach and Engagement. Lauren, can you say hello and briefly tell us where you've been, where you're headed, and what you do?
Yeah, great question. Thank you so much for having me, and hello to everybody who's logged in this afternoon, evening. As David said, my name is Lauren Stockwell. I'm the Director of Outreach and Engagement for Clinical Research Fastrack. Big fancy long title for I love to be a representative of our graduates. I love to go into the rooms that matter with the people who matter, the hiring managers, the directors, the CEOs of the organizations within our industry that are working to hire and bring in the next generation of workforce. So I get to be the representative of our graduates in those rooms and go to these conferences, speak at these conferences on the behalf of our graduates, and really ensure that we're advocating for you all on your behalf. My passion is to be a connector, and I'm so grateful to connect with you all this evening.
Welcome, Lauren. Thank you for being with us. And we also have another Lauren. Lauren Belina Chang has been with Clinical Research Fastrack from the very beginning. She taught in our first class back in 2016, has had an illustrious career both before coming to Clinical Research Fastrack and now as our Vice President of Strategic Growth. She conducted clinical research at the University of North Carolina in their trauma department. She also, before coming to Fastrack, was in the oncology department at the Mayo Clinic in Phoenix, Arizona. I want to give a warm welcome to Lauren Belina Chang. Lauren, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think you took the words out of my mouth there, but I'm really excited to be here tonight and really represent more of the technical side of the industry. As David said, my background is all very site-centric. What does that mean is I am coming from a background where I worked and helped to build research programs at clinical research sites. And this is really where the participants are seen, the data is collected, where the rubber meets the road in clinical research, where we really see if we're making that difference that we really hope to make. Since my time in clinical research, I've been able to run trials in a variety of therapeutic areas, write protocols, collect data, analyze data, publish manuscripts, present at national meetings. And now my time at Fastrack, as David said, I'm our Vice President of Strategic Growth. And really what that means is that my goal and focus is helping all of our students to grow, but in a very strategic way. Historically, people would maybe get lucky and fall into clinical research without any real training, and that's pretty dangerous when you're giving something experimental to a human person. And so our goal here is to help individuals enter with the right training and enter very strategically to get their foot in the door, but also with an eye on the long-term goal of where do you want to take your career. So I'm all about strategy. I'm all about the technical side of research, and I'm all about mentorship. So I'm really excited to jump into our conversation tonight.
All right. Well, thank you both for being here. We are all about answering your questions. So if you do have questions, there's two ways to ask questions. You can click on the Q&A in your control panel, or there's a chat. In either place, as you enter your questions, Lauren Stockwell will be answering those questions for us. Directly messaging you. And some of the questions are just pertain to everybody. So if it's something that we feel we really want to address in the short time we have together, she'll call it out, or she'll say, hey, I have a question from Alok in Santa Barbara, and then we will hear that question. But this is a fantastic industry. We are here to help. And that is what we love doing most. But I want to dive in, and we're going to go to you, to Lauren Belina Chang, to you first. And I want to set the table. I want everyone to understand what clinical research is, because a lot of people have misconceptions, and they're like, oh, well, I worked on a research paper in college. I know how to do research. Other people have worked in the lab doing bench research. There's all kinds of research. Can you sort of clear the fog and clear the air? What is clinical research? What are we talking about here tonight?
Absolutely. So to start this off, I'm going to ask everybody a question. You don't have to actually raise your hand or admit it to the person sitting next to you, but have you ever taken a medication that's FDA approved? Or have you ever used or had implanted maybe a medical device or used crutches? Have you ever been to the doctor and they put that little tongue depressor on your mouth to look at your tonsils? Maybe that's happened to you or your child. So everything I'm talking about is FDA approved. All of those things, those medications, devices, new therapies, had to go through clinical research trials. What this means is they've gone through rigorous and standardized testing to collect data in a very systematic way so that we can say if we've captured the truth of if this intervention is safe, and then secondarily, is it efficacious? Meaning, does it work? Is it actually helping people in the way that we hope that it will help people? And that's really what we're talking about. We're out of the lab. We're kind of beyond that lab work. Right now, we're actually putting something experimental into a human person. And again, seeing if it's safe, seeing if it's efficacious. And that's what clinical research is. It's really where medicine is going. It's the future of medicine because we're testing things that aren't yet approved, which is really exciting to be on the cutting edge.
Okay, so I heard a lot of key words, and if you guys are taking notes, we're testing new treatments. It could even be a surgery, right? You could be testing a procedure, a drug, a device, all these types of treatments, and we're testing them in humans. Is that right?
That's correct.
Testing them in humans, but we're looking at safety first. Okay, one for safety, and then you said efficacious. What does efficacious mean? Just in plain language.
Yeah, when we're talking efficacy, we're really asking, does it work? Right? So if we're thinking about that new medication for type 2 diabetes, does it work? Does that lower that A1C level in the way that we're hoping that it does? First, we're of course asking if it's safe. I'm sure all those medications that came through your mind that you took, you might have thought, wow, they came with a lot of side effects, or wow, I saw on TV all the risks of potentially taking it. Well, those are the things that we're collecting when we're collecting the data in clinical research to assess that safety, trying to understand that profile of potential side effects. But then when we get into that efficacy, that kind of word that we don't hear all that often in everyday language, we're really talking about, does it work for the intended purpose? Is it helping people in the way that we really hope that it will? But we can't just hope. We have to back it up with science, back it up with data.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now I'm gonna launch a poll for all of you, because are you in the right place? Some people might have said, "Oh, I was looking for a job doing research in the library or something." So I'm gonna launch this poll, and I want to see how many of you are interested in this as a career. How many of you are interested in pursuing a career in clinical research? Is this something you want to do right away? Or maybe you're just interested, you want to learn more, and that's totally fine. We are just curious to see who is in our audience, and we want to make sure that we are hitting on the questions you have and really helping you to move forward and in your journey. So some of you, like 15, 17% are like, yeah, I could see myself doing this. I just want to learn more. And that's fantastic. Some people just wanted to be on the webinar. Maybe you have a different job, but you're just curious. That's fabulous. But it looks like of the people responding, wow, 83% are like, wow, I want to get into the field right away. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Thank you for participating in this. So let's go to you, Lauren Stockwell. All these people want to get in the field. There's a hand raise function too. How many of you have already tried? You've applied to jobs. You saw a job, clinical research coordinator. It's right in your hometown. You've applied to those jobs.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Hands are going up.
Shooting
Okay.
up.
So what what we have heard and what we know is that this can be a difficult field to enter. Lauren Stockwell, let's start unpeeling this, unpacking this. Why is it hard to get into the field of clinical research?
Yeah, really great question. And for my friends that raised their hand, there were a ton of you on the line. Congratulations on investing time and in really ensuring that you're applying to these organizations and these positions. So often, being on the cutting edge of medicine, we are incredibly, hesitant and testing things and curious about things. And so sometimes we put forth these requirements for these types of positions, these entry-level positions that sometimes, screen us out, those 1 to 2 years of experience. And so as we go through the application process, sometimes it's not always about what you know, but it's about who you know. And it's about building those connections, networking yourself, leveraging yourself within the industry, and also showing and proving to others and really speaking the same language that we do in this industry. This entire industry is filled with alphabet soup. We have so many different terms, so many different acronyms. And so I think walking in and understanding what you know and what you don't know and being able to willing to learn is so important. And that's something we really focus on in the classroom, is not only just the hard skills and the acronyms and all the regulations and, the good documentation practices, but also how to leverage it within an interview, how to communicate it within an interview, how to connect yourself within this industry. It's a very, very big, multi-billion-dollar industry, but in reality, it's a really small industry as well. And so it's important to create and cultivate those really meaningful and purposeful interactions and connections.
Beautiful. So networking is important, and finding a way in that way is so important. Lauren Belina Chang, you've said this on so many times, where you see these jobs and they're asking, it's an entry-level job and you need experience for an entry-level job. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I've been talking this whole webinar about risks, essentially, right? When we think about clinical research, we're thinking about testing new medications, devices, and whatnot, and trying to assess their risk profile, their safety profile. But as such, our industry is very risk averse in general, because we do need people who are so detail oriented, who are strong communicators, who can really get down in the nitty gritty, but also see the big picture at the exact same time. And that's a really hard thing to be able to do. And then when you get into an interview and they start asking you about AEs and SAEs and ICFs and feasibilities and recruitment strategies, and all of a sudden you're like, what language are you speaking? What is this? What's happening? It's very easy to get overwhelmed because, as Lauren had said, it's like speaking a brand new language. I'm sure many of you out there are multilingual. Clinical research might as well be classified as its own language. And a lot of the barrier to getting in is speaking the language, putting the interviewer at ease to say, okay, you're not going to completely put my patients, my participants here at risk. We can trust you. We can know that you're teachable because you've already taken the initiative to start learning that initial language. And once you really have that foundation of language, it's much easier to master all the different skill sets that you need to thrive in this environment. Oh, David, you're on mute.
Sorry, I hit that mute button. So you're speaking a different language, and I think we know that in medicine. Sometimes I've been to the doctor and they talk about the anterior dorsal, sublingual. They use terminology that I'm just not familiar with. I remember in Latin we learned those words, but so the language we use in clinical research is pretty specific to clinical research. We use terms like GDP and IB and IP, and wow, that's a lot of I's in one sentence. But if you're in clinical research, people know what you're talking about, and you need to be able to communicate that way to get in the field. So the language is important. You talked about risk, and I'm going to share this slide because there's this question: why is it so difficult to enter the field? And if you look at it, I think what we've been talking about here is, one, this is a specialty. We are putting new devices or medicines in people. That can be a little scary, right? We're testing, it's experimental. So we really have to know what we're doing. And this is all under the FDA, IRB, under pretty serious regulations and supervision. It's a specialty of healthcare, so you have to know that language, and it is a different language. These are 3 reasons why when you apply to a job and you send in a resume, I don't know, sometimes they don't even look at it. That can be frustrating, but this is what is happening. And so how do people get in? We work with our students all the time. What is the secret sauce? Let's talk about what we are doing to help people get in.
I love that question. And honestly, our HR system in a lot of industries is kind of broken and backwards, and right, you easy apply and you don't build any sort of personal connection, and you're screened out by one of those screening systems because you didn't have the exact word that you needed on that resume at that point in time. And it can be really disheartening and frustrating. And so for those on the line that have felt that pain, I'm so sorry, but we're here to tell you that getting the right words on your resume, getting the right language on there, getting in front of the right people, and building that more personal connection is the way in. It is so important that we're able to meet one-on-one with people and interact with them in an actual human to human thing. I always say, put the clinical back in clinical research, right? Clinical means like working with people. And so if we're not creating and cultivating those connections and just hitting easy apply, we're not serving our profile as well as we could. The goal with our program and our mentorship is to add depth to your profile, is to give you this purpose behind what you're doing and give you kind of this greater sense that if there are 200 applications listed, right, 200 other people applied, what is going to make you different? How are you going to stand out? So we do that through some pretty creative strategies. We help you guys leverage and understand how to network with yourselves online and create that presence online. So, Lauren?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's networking and relationships. Sorry, Lauren, and you wanted
No,
to
I was just going to add on to that about kind of the relationships and how meaningful that can be. And you can go out there and you can build relationships on your own, certainly. But I'll challenge you with a kind of a simple analogy to think back. What's your favorite pizza place? Where do you go? Where do you get pizza from? Where do you order pizza from? Where you're like, that is the best pizza in the world. Now, if I came to your town, I saw someone was in Tupelo, Mississippi. If I came to Tupelo and I visited you, and I said, oh, I want to really order a pizza. And I went to Google and it gave me 100 different pizza places. I would be overwhelmed. I wouldn't know, where to order pizza from. But if I went to our friend out there in Tupelo and I said, where do you order pizza from? And they said, oh, Joe's House of Pizza. It's the best pizza. It's so phenomenal. Chances are I'm going to order Joe's instead of scrolling through those hundreds of Google search results, right? And so that's kind of what we really try to do, because when you can kind of come in as that internal referral, as that resume suggested by someone who knows the company, to say, hey, we really recommend, Ron for this job. We recommend Susie for this job. They don't have to, the hiring managers don't have to go through 100, 200 resumes anymore, because all of a sudden Susie or Joe is at the top of the stack. Just like kind of, I'm going to order pizza from Joe's House of Pizza there in Tupelo, Mississippi.
So referrals,
Yeah.
network, connections, those are so important. We talked about speaking the language, but really that takes practice and training. Why don't Lauren, Belina, and Chen, can you talk a little bit about the training that is required, that's now expected? What is the industry expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I think the very lowest level of expectation here is that you have a good clinical practice certificate. And, our training is what's called Transcellerate approved. There's kind of this approval body that says, yes, this training will get you that good clinical practice certificate. And really what that means is that you understand how to respect your participants, to protect their rights, safety, and well-being, and also that you understand data integrity. And that's really what the entirety of clinical research boils down to, is respecting the rights of the participant and collecting good, clean, quality data. And so at the very least, you have to demonstrate some proactive approach to understanding those concepts. And then your interviewer is going to dig a little deeper. Well, how would you identify an AE and differentiate that from an SAE, and what would be your reporting steps? And all of a sudden, if you're not trained in that, you're very overwhelmed. You don't know what to do because you don't even know what they're asking about. And you're like, oh, I don't know. I'd tell someone about it. Okay, well, that's not technical enough because that's really getting at that safety aspect again of what we're talking about when it comes to research and data collection and protecting our participants. So you really first, it's one thing to represent it on your resume, but then you have to be able to interact with the information at a higher level. And I would say it's yes, anyone, I do think that most people in the world could learn clinical research. It's not rocket science. And I don't know, maybe rocket science isn't even that hard. I don't know. Sounds like it's hard though. But mastering those concepts isn't difficult. I think where it can get really tricky and what your interviewers are going to want to see is, can you be resourceful?
Mm-hmm.
In those times where you're in the gray area, when the protocol, which are directions for how to collect that data, how to run each visit to collect that good, clean, credible data, when that's not clear, what do you do in those moments? And it comes down to learning and knowing your resources so that you can react appropriately in that dynamic environment.
So many great points, and we are getting a lot of questions. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want to actually start answering it. And we have a question from Jonathan. He's completing a master's in science, in medical science. First of all, congratulations, Jonathan. And how can this certificate, or more importantly, how could our training help him be more competitive inside the clinical research field? Lauren Stockwell, why don't you start?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think getting letters behind your name is super, super important. And I think gaining that understanding of what that looks like, but we also work to help build kind of that understanding of why you want to be in this industry, kind of connecting you to the people who are leading this industry. And so as you continue to complete that master's of science, that education will take you so far in this industry. We're definitely an industry that values education and wants to help empower education, because we like to learn new things and discover new things. But becoming more competitive is not just about, having that degree behind your name. It's about the way that you leverage that degree and also the way that you communicate what you've learned. And so we talk really one-on-one, me and my mentees, we talk very much about how you're articulating the things that you learned and why that matters.
That's so interesting, because for someone like Jonathan, that master's degree is really going to help you move up. But our focus is, how can you get in to start with? And what we've seen is a lot of students have master's degrees, they're applying to jobs, and the research they did in their master's program wasn't clinical research. It was interesting survey research, or they were doing research papers, and that's not enough to get you in the door.
Mhm.
So it's really about picking up that training in ICHGCP, but then I I think we want to talk more about it, Lauren Belina Chang, is how you communicate that training. Like, how do you do that, and what do you have to do?
Yeah, and I'd go beyond training. It's really training in the hands-on aspect. So that's one thing I'm really strongly behind, is that you have to practice before you play, right? For any sports fans, that pitcher doesn't just take the mound having never pitched before they practice, right? That quarterback doesn't just get into the game and try to throw a Hail Mary. It's all about practice, and we incorporate that a lot into our particular training. Of course, we practice in the classroom, and then we practice how to talk about our practice. Because when you get into that interview and they say, well, what's your experience with source documents and utilizing Alcoa C to collect data? Our students have practiced that. So they're able to talk about how they have created those source docs, how they have practiced collecting data following Alcoa C, what they do when they learn about a data point well after the fact when they should have collected it, weeks or months ago, how to correct those errors properly. Yes, training is one thing, practice is another thing, but how do you speak about that practice in a way that your interviewer says, wow, you're really teachable. You're already on the right track. You don't have any bad habits. You've practiced. Now let's draft you to our team. Let's get you on our team. Let's teach you our playbook. You already have the fundamentals, and then we'll put you in the game.
Yeah,
Beautiful. Go ahead.
I always like to talk about the way that we give tools in our tool belt, right? At the end of the day, we're just collecting tools all throughout our life, and every single experience is a tool getter. And through this experience specifically, we're giving you all these tools that you have seen. You've seen a protocol, you've worked through it, as Lauren was talking about. You've built out a source document, you've built a recruitment flyer, you've looked at an informed consent form. You understand kind of what that functionally looks like. And then you get to go into this organization and say, look at all my tools, I got them all. Teach me how to use them at your organization. Let's say, let's pull out your hammer, let's pull out your nail. We're going to put it right here in the wall, but you already have those tools walking into the door, which makes you stand out amongst other candidates. You already know the language. You're already speaking the way that we speak. You are coming in kind of confident with your shoulders back and you're standing up nice and straight, a little taller maybe, and walking in saying, I am confident that I'm the best entry-level candidate that I possibly could be walking in the door.
This is fantastic. And this also is answering, we have someone who is Tafa Zwa. Oh my, I am having so much trouble with your name. Like, how do I get the experience I need? And really, this is a place to do it, where we're giving you hands-on live experience with experts in the field. All of our instructors have been in the field anywhere from, wow, now 5 to 30 years of real world experience. And then we're getting a lot of questions about the background. What background do I need? Now, we had Jonathan, master's in science, great background, but Lauren Belina Chang, what background do you really need to get in the field, and what is the field looking for?
I mean, I've seen people from a wide variety of backgrounds get in the field. I've, personally mentored a lot of people with various backgrounds from, banking and business to science, lab work, nurses, foreign medical doctors. I feel like everywhere in between. It's, I've mentored so many people, so many different types of backgrounds. And really, I think what's important for everyone to understand is once you understand the terminology of clinical research, you understand how to talk about your past transferable skills from whatever job you've ever held in your life. I'll give you an example. I love working with people with these business backgrounds, for example, banking. Right? You've worked in a highly regulated environment. You have to quickly develop rapport with your clients so that they trust you with their money, right? That's huge. That's important. I guarantee you documentation is part of what you have done. I mean, there's so many overlapping aspects that if you say, well, I'm coming from the banking industry, you might not initially see that overlap. But when we can understand the clinical research terminology in the field and what's required, you say, wow, a lot of what I've done, I've worked in electronic systems. Wow, that's so similar to 21 CFR 11. Wow, I've had to document so much. It was like I had to write it on this piece of paper that's like a source document. And then I had to input it into the computer like an EDC. And all of a sudden, you're seeing your past experience in a whole new light. And then you can present your transferable skills in a way that is relevant. So your background isn't necessarily that important. It's really important that you're passionate about making a difference in healthcare and working in the future, that you're detail oriented, that you can teach skills, but you can't teach passion. I don't know who said that quote, but I've heard it years ago and it stuck with me, because yes, we can teach you those skills, but I think it's really important to understand that no matter your background, you have transferable skills. It's how you speak about them in clinical research terms that can make the difference in those interviews.
Okay, we are getting so many questions from people with really great health science backgrounds. We have nurses, we have foreign medical doctors who are on the webinar right now, and they're saying, wow, look, I already have all this training. I'm really qualified in healthcare. How could this type of training help me? And once you have a really great background, let's say you're a registered nurse, you're working in you're working in ER or you're a charge nurse, any kind of RN. The great thing about clinical research is once you have clinical research plus RN, what can you do? Lauren Belina Chang, what does that mean?
Yeah, my first question, whether you're an RN or not, I mean, I would ask this to anyone thinking about clinical research is, do you want to be patient facing or do you want to be behind the scenes? If you want to be patient facing, if you have that nursing degree, an ideal position is going to be that clinical research nurse. You're interacting with participants, sometimes their families, depending on your therapeutic area. you are collecting data, you're running those protocols, you're at the research site, you're working with the physicians, which we call PIs or principal investigators in this field. You're working with those dynamic study teams. Depending on where you work, you might wear a lot of hats or you might just wear one or two hats, depending on how departmentalized it is. Now, for someone who's not an RN and you want to be patient facing, you're probably looking at either a research assistant or a clinical research coordinator role, depending on your background. And again, you're working with participants. This is great. This is a great entry position. I really strongly encourage anyone trying to transition in this field, start in one of these coordinator roles. This is truly where the rubber meets the road, where the data is collected, where you really gain that intense understanding of a clinical trial. I'm sure many people joining tonight have aspirations of leadership. Maybe you want to be a director, a VP someday, whatever you want to be. You're going to be a much better leader if you start from the ground up and you understand what you're asking of your teams. And maybe it's your indirect team, but that's really what it comes down to, are those coordinators running those trials. Now, sometimes I understand people, maybe you're burnt out from COVID, maybe you just don't want to be patient facing, whatever it is. There's still so many other directions to go. Regulatory is a great and growing field. I say growing because we're getting more and more regulations every single day because this is an evolving field. And so that's a great area where you can grow your entire career. In fact, one of our instructors is the global head of regulatory for a major pharmaceutical company. And she started actually as a coordinator and grew into that, which is pretty incredible. For some of you out there, you might like data management. Another great field where you could, take it to retirement. Some people love compliance. Maybe someone out there wants to be an FDA auditor. I mean, there's so many different directions that you can go. I know some of you I've seen in the chat are foreign medical doctors. If your goal is to take your STEP exams, match into residency, become that boarded physician in the United States, perhaps you could go on to be a sub-I, a PI, and really lead those trials. And then beyond that, you can still grow. I know one of the PIs that I used to work very closely with, he's now a senior medical director at a major pharmaceutical company. So even as a physician, that clinical side isn't necessarily a terminal place to be. You can still grow your career well beyond. So I know you started asking about nurses and I kind of went off on a tangent, but for anyone, no matter your background, you can really grow in this field. Now, I will say there's one caveat on that. We talked a little bit about education earlier. Now, I've certainly seen people get into the field with an associate's, particularly if they have a medical assisting type background. Our field has really trended, particularly over the past 5-10 years, to requiring at least a bachelor's to move up into many of these positions. I see a lot of people want to be CRAs. Most CRA positions these days are requiring a bachelor's or higher. So I just, want to let people know about that. But then at the same time, there's plenty of companies that are starting what we're seeing non-degree programs. And this is for people who don't have that bachelor's degree, but still want to get into clinical research. I'll let you know those positions are pretty limited at this point in time. But hey, don't let that stop you. If you see those positions, go after them. And those are the types of people that we're networking with, because we do have students with those types of backgrounds.
Oh my gosh, so much information. And I did see one question in the Q&A. Someone said, I am a physician from another country. Have you helped someone like me? The answer is yes. I probably hundreds of foreign medical doctors who either got their degree overseas and then moved to the US or practiced for many years. They are now, after taking our program, they're able to get into the field. And we have actually had webinars with some in the past. One gentleman, he had worked, he was actually from Pakistan, but worked overseas as a doctor in the UAE, and then brought his family, and he was applying to jobs, living in North Carolina, couldn't get anything. But then he took our course, got hired right away, and has had an incredibly successful career since then. So sometimes you need the training and the support and the connections just as that extra push to get you over the hurdle, because working in clinical research in the United States is also very different culturally than working in other countries, how we apply, how we communicate. And I'm just going to put it out there. It's not just the hard skills of learning about ICH-GCP and operations and data management. That's important, but it's the soft skills too. That's the professionalism, the communication that are so important to help people not only get the job, but to excel and advance. Wow, so many questions. There was a question, Lauren Stockwell, about our training. Can you describe a little bit about our training, who our instructors are? I know you work so closely with our instructors. Who are the instructors? Where are they coming from? And how does the training look?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad to have this question because our instructors are some of my absolute favorite people in the world. I feel so fortunate to work with such incredible, passionate people who want to pay it forward within the industry and build a better generation of clinical research professionals. So many of us fell into this industry, and our graduates aren't going to be able to say the same thing as they go throughout their career. We are very intentionally entering the industry. So, to answer your first question, who our instructors are from everywhere. They're from all over the country. They're from all different types of organizations. They're from sites or organizations that are running the clinical research. They're from CROs or contract or clinical research organizations, which are kind of helping facilitate those trials. They're from sponsors, the people who are paying the money and asking the questions, right? They are from vendors. People are helping to make that job easier. They're independent contractors, right? They're moving around the industry, helping to support these different organizations. Many of them have 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years of experience, but in common, they have this passion again for building up that workforce and really ensuring that people are coming in from the ground level, really well equipped and well trained. So we, at the end of the day, can move medicine forward faster. They all had to fall into it. They all had to figure it out and kind of trial by fire, if you will. They're helping to build that workforce that doesn't have to suffer through that, if you will. How the program looks, question number 2. That is essentially, it is a 4-week program in general, and it's basically allowing us to really ensure that everybody is as up to speed as possible. It is a boot camp training program, and the main chunk of it is going to be happening on a live Zoom training. So this is all online for my friends that are in North Carolina, my friends that are in Texas, my friends in California, New York. We can all come together in one Zoom room in a session just like this, where we are all on camera, off mute, collaborating, going into breakout rooms, doing activities, discussing these topics, and really ensuring that I always like to say going to Spain to learn Spanish, right? It's super important that we're diving into this material and really immersing ourselves into everything that this industry has to hold. So what we do is we do that in a Saturday to Saturday type of boot camp course, and we really kind of ensure that you guys are really dunked into the material. It's going to be 80 hours in 8 days, and we make it super fun. Definitely really, really so exciting. We have a ton of different activities built throughout it. On the front end and back end, there's a little bit of asynchronous work, right? Where you're going through modules, you're understanding it. We're really trying to ensure that we're setting these folks up for success as they leave our program.
Wow. Wow. And wow. It's a great program. And in 4 weeks, we're able to learn the core competencies from outstanding professionals in the field who have tons of experience. I think you mentioned they come from the pharmaceutical industry. They're coming from contract research organizations or CROs. Many are in roles as CRA or they're directors or project managers. And then we have site level instructors who are clinical research, usually supervisors by now. They started out as coordinators, but they've moved up and they're training their team, but they come and train our students as well. We don't have a lot of time, but so I want to get this question in before we close. We just have about 5 more minutes. Lauren Melina Chang, you've been in this field for quite some time now. I want to actually, I don't even remember how long. I know you've been at Clinical Research Fastrack for almost 8 years. So first of all, how long have you been in the field and why do you love it so much? Why is it so dear to your heart?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I transitioned into clinical research in 2010. Prior to that, I had 4 years of basic science experience. So anyone coming from the rat lab or thinking pipettes, petri dishes, microscopes, that was my life before. That was the type of research that I had done. I knew I loved research, but I honestly thought clinical was out of reach. I thought you needed to be a nurse. I thought you needed to maybe be a physician or have, some really intensive type of medical background. And so when I fell into it as a research assistant, I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into. I knew it was just a different aspect of research. And I've really just come to love the hope that it brings people. Again, I'm coming from a site background where we've run protocols. I've been able to write protocols, to develop the interventions, to collect the data. When you're interacting with someone who is out of answers, who the doctors are stumped and they say, we just don't know. What about a clinical trial? I mean, there's something so powerful about that, and at the same time, so kind of scary and vulnerable, because these people who volunteer to participate in a clinical trial, oftentimes they are doing it for the greater good. They're doing it for altruistic reasons. They're doing it to bring hope to themselves, their families, that maybe this is something that will be life-changing for them. There's other trials where people are just doing it for, a multitude of reasons. But I think what I love most about this field is we are bringing hope to people that the future is brighter, that there are cures out there. We know more about medicine. We know more about biology than ever before. We know more about genetics than ever before. We're really moving into this realm of personalized medicine, of bringing that hope to people. And I think that's what clinical research is all about. And that's really why I love what I do.
Wow. That was beautiful. I want to ask the same question of you, Lauren Stockwell. Why is this field so close to your heart and so important to you?
This question makes me so happy because it's so cool to continue to discover your why and to be in an industry where every single day you get to learn something new and you get to challenge yourself. But at the core, the reason that I love this industry and the reason that I stay in this industry and I will continue to stay in this industry is because we get to add more birthdays to people's lives. I get to give people time back with their families and their loved ones. I'm not just working with the patient and the person in the bed. We get to impact their families and the people around them and the people who love them. So our impact is amplified by so much just by enrolling in clinical research and helping be a part of that industry.
Wow, that is beautiful. And this really is a wonderful industry. We only have 2 minutes left and we have like 20 more questions to go through. So I just want to say this. There was one question about, hey, can I volunteer in this industry as a way to get in the door? And that's actually a very difficult thing to do. And I just want to explain why. In clinical research, we are working on the cutting edge of medicine. We are testing new treatments that could be the next cure to cancer, to heart disease, to genetic treatments. And there's a lot of intellectual property and there's a lot of non-disclosure agreements. There's a lot of privacy in these trials. So everyone working in these trials has to sign away on so many documents that it takes a while to get onto a clinical trial, making it very difficult to volunteer, which is why a training that you can go in and gain experience and learn what's happening in what they call the black box. People see these ideas of new drugs, new molecules, new treatments going into trial, and they wonder what happens in phase 1, 2, and 3. What is going on there? And once you're inside of this wonderful world, you'll see there are people who love what they do. They are passionate about science, about healthcare, and about making an impact. So if we haven't answered your questions, please give us a call or email us. We have people during the workday between about 8 and 5 Central Time. If you call during those hours, there's usually people that can answer your questions. And if you do come to class, we will answer all of your questions. The next class that's coming up for anyone that's interested is going to be starting May 11th. And if you're interested, you do have to apply. There's an application process. This isn't for everyone. We are screening individuals. We will talk to you and we will read your application. And we want to make sure this is right for you and that you are right for this. So if you do have more questions, please call us. You can call tomorrow, 602-883-7944. You can also email us at contact@clinicalresearchfastrack.com and go to our website, clinicalresearchfastrack.com. It has been such a pleasure to have this opportunity to spend time with you. I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your afternoon to be with us. It really is an honor for us to be able to share about our industry, about what we do, and about how we can help. So Lauren Valina Chang, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining.
And Lauren Stockwell, thank you for
Thank
being our connector, for traveling around the country, meeting with research, hiring managers, HR professionals, sites, CROs, and sponsors who are hiring our students. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much. And I have been furiously typing in the chat, so I'm so sorry if I miss questions, but I'm trying really hard.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. And thank you all again for attending. Call us tomorrow, email us. We are happy to answer more questions. But for tonight, we're going to sign off. Have a great evening, everyone, and take care. We hope to hear from you.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.